Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's Full Press NFL Sunday. It's week 10 in the NFL. We want to thank you all for waking up with us here this bright and early on this Sunday morning because, we got another overseas game where the Buccaneers and Seahawks are getting ready to kick off here in a little bit because we're broadcasting this show early. We're going to do it twice at our normal time slot at about 10:30, but also right now at roughly 9 a.m. So hopefully we're getting you all ready for what should be a pretty interesting Sunday, at least something I'm looking forward to, because with the Buccaneers playing in the morning and the Patriots having an off week, it's going to be red zone from 1 o'clock till about 7 o'clock tonight. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Yeah, the overseas games is usually not a lot of great matchups most of the time, but really looking forward to this one, and obviously big game for the Bucs, and we'll see how the Seahawks kind of match up with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're going to get a pretty intriguing matchup. Obviously, the Seahawks, you can argue, are maybe the second or third best team in the NFC right now. And of course, the Bucs coming off a pretty huge win against the Rams and really looking to get a nice little winning streak going ahead of their bye week. But fortunately for us, we had two of the worst teams face off on Thursday Night Football. So at least they're completely out of the picture today when it comes to Sunday. And that's obviously the Panthers and the Falcons. The Panthers sneaking and getting a little bit of a victory there. Not that it really matters, because at the end of the day, I don't think either of those teams are going anywhere. So fortunately for us, they will not threaten what should be a pretty eventful weekend, eventful Sunday. So let's get back to, well, actually, first, before we get into that game, because we'll talk about that game leading into our weekly picks as we do here each and every Full Press NFL Sunday. One of the more interesting or surprising stories of the NFL season, and certainly of this past week, was the not the firing of Frank Reich. I can see that, but the hiring of Jeff Saturday as their new head coach, and I'm talking about the Indianapolis Colts. He is the interim head coach, so this is not in a official tag. So certainly there's no guarantee he'll be here beyond what we've seen. But the more and more I think about it, the traditional path people take to hire coaches, it doesn't work that often. I mean, let's face it. I mean, how many times do we hear about this new up and coming coach? Oh my God, this guy's taking the league by storm, yada, yada, yada. And then it's just another guy in the cycle of reusable NFL head coaches that become defensive coordinators or offensive coordinators again, brand themselves, go out, try again, swing and a miss. I mean, we see it every single season. We get the hype. So I say, what the hell do the Colts got to lose? I mean, it hasn't worked so far going the traditional route. Might as well go completely off the map, bring in someone who at the very least has great ties to the organization. This could be a spectacular failure, or it could be a stroke of genius by Bill Polian. Which way are you leaning, Braden?
Honestly, I think I'm kind of looking at this like I guess it could really steer the Colts in the right direction for the future, as far as just maybe the mentality that they're going to have the rest of the season. Kind of a former player, obviously hasn't been out of the league, it seems like, too long. So I think just kind of that belief and kind of motivation can kind of be restored with some of these guys, because still mostly kind of a younger roster. We'll see what they do at quarterback next year, but I just think this could be just a good motivating tactic for a team that we know is not really going to be in a tough division every year, and really maybe has a good chance to turn it around quickly if they make the right decisions.
Yeah, and that's the problem. They're pretty good at making the wrong decisions. They've been doing it for a lot of years, and not just at excuse me, at coach. They've done it at quarterback. They've done it in draft picks. I mean, this is a team at one point that had, arguably the best offensive line in football, and it's a bit of it's a shell of itself at this point. You haven't had consistent quarterback play really since Peyton Manning. I mean, I know Andrew Luck was there, but between injuries and then obviously the early retirement, I wouldn't necessarily classify that as consistent. So really, for the past decade, this Colts team has not really been a competitor in the sense of what they used to be, certainly under Peyton Manning. And they've tried the run-of-the-mill coaches. We see it every single week, and I think we've actually talked about this before, but How many really good coaches are actually in this league? Like
I
4, 5?
Yeah, I think it's like 4 to 6 is kind of what I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, so
Um,
yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm saying. The league itself. I mean, look, we're seeing mediocre football every week. We get mediocre coaching pretty much every single week from the vast majority of teams in this league. So um, I say, what the hell? Again, you can't get much worse than 0 for 14 on third down and 120 some odd yards of total offense like they did against the Patriots last week. So to me, I'm sitting here thinking, well, find the Colts, roll the dice. Maybe you'll find something because I know it's not quite the same situation, but one of those potential top 5 coaches in the league, if not top 5, very close to it, uh, is a former player that kind of came out of nowhere in Mike Vrabel. Now, he had experience at the professional and college level, albeit very little experience, but experience nonetheless, which obviously Jeff Saturday does not have. Um, but there's some precedent for that. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say that Jeff Saturday wasn't a smart player. I mean, he was certainly great at a position that is often unheralded, but perhaps maybe as important, if not just below quarterback in terms of running an offense in that center. So, yeah, look, I'm a Colts fan. I'm all for it because look, things aren't going to get any worse for him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Just because I think you kind of see him talking about just him being there for the next 8 weeks. I think there's gonna be a good sense of urgency. I think that he's gonna bring to the table, and I think some players will kind of feed off of that, knowing that they could play their last snap for the Colts at any time at this rate. So it's definitely going to bring in a good sense of urgency, and just a guy like that is kind of perfect for that spot right now.
Now, do you think this changes the path for Matt Ryan? Because I think under the assumption was he wasn't going to take another snap, healthy or not, the rest of the season. I don't know if that was a coaching decision more so than a management decision. I know there's been some discussion about obviously some contract implications when it comes to Matt Ryan and playing and being injured. But as far as we know, he's healthy and could potentially play. Do you think we're going to see Matt Ryan again? I mean, not that it's an improvement at quarterback. I mean, he really hasn't been that good this season, but perhaps we'll see him yet again.
Yeah, I almost think maybe kind of that former player in Jeff Saturday. I think he's going to probably have a lot of respect for Matt Ryan, and maybe want to give him one more shot. I think maybe it's not too far out of the question that we see him back pretty soon. I think if they struggle as much as they did last week against the Raiders, especially with how bad the Raiders are defensively, I really would not be surprised to see him back very soon.
Yeah, we'll see. And like I said, I don't think anyone thinks Sam Ellinger is the future in Indianapolis. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Saturday gets kicked off in a few hours here. So, all right. Like I said, like I mentioned, we have a Buccaneers Seahawks game that is about to kick off. That's if you're listening, of course, during 9 o'clock showing of this program. If you're listening at 10:30, don't get confused. You did not go back in time. We're just replaying it and pretending like it's live. So, the Buccaneers snapped their 3-game losing streak last week in a very dramatic come from behind victory over the Rams. Something I believe personally, and again, it's a little bit of bias involved in it, but I believe that could swing the Buccaneers season into success as opposed to imminent failure, which is what it was kind of feeling like for many weeks. The Seahawks, on the other hand, have been a pleasant surprise, and I think if you would have asked the question, did the Seahawks upgrade or get better at quarterback? No. But then again, I don't think anyone was believing that Geno Smith was going to have this career resurgence that, again, really has come out of nowhere. I know you're probably not as big of a Russell Wilson fan. I know I'm not a huge Russell Wilson fan. So I thought, they weren't going to get too much worse. I just didn't think they found an adequate replacement. But let's face it, Geno Smith, he's playing some great football right now, and I think the opinion of not only him but of Pete Carroll has kind of swung a little bit with his success with Geno and, of course, the mirrored failures of the Denver Broncos early on this season. So, how impressed have you been with the Seahawks, and how far do you really think this team can take it? Because, look, we can make an argument that they may be one of the best two teams in the NFC, but you can also make an argument that they're not even the best team in their division.
Yeah, I guess with how impressed I am, I think we go back to coaching real quick. I always thought Carroll was a really good coach, but I think what kind of always took him for me away from that top tier was just I think some outlandish decision making, in crucial moments, and definitely kind of shown me this season that I think he's really just been really able to take any team and I think any roster and just know what their strengths are and kind of play to those. And I think that's something that's definitely kind of, surprised me this season. I didn't, really expect that to happen the first year after Russell Wilson. And I just think with how impressive they are as well, it's really just the rookies that have already shined through. Now that Rashad Penny's injured, I think Kenneth Walker the third has a really good shot to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And just defensive rookies. I mean, you're seeing guys like Tariq Woolen, who got passed over to the fifth round and playing a cornerback position that's tough to do in the NFL as a rookie in today's pass happy age. It's just really impressive, I think, to just see one of those few teams that has that sustained success and formula that just seems to work for about everybody. But for how far they can go, yeah, I think they can at least win the division and win a playoff game. I think just because they can win in a variety of ways, whether it's Geno throwing to DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett or relying on this running game. I think there's just there's a lot of avenues for this team to match up with some of the top teams in the NFC and just seem to put pressure on teams in crucial situations.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's impressive across the board, but I believe that them and the 49ers are clearly the top two teams in that division. I think the Rams are well cemented there at the bottom, with Arizona not too far off, and they actually face each other this week, so that'll be an interesting game to pick here in just a moment. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, you got to, the hope is that Geno can keep up this type of play the rest of the season. Their offense is pretty good, their defense is pretty good, and that's a pretty darn good formula in the NFL, certainly this season, because there's not too many teams that can say that about both units. It's either one or the other, and generally, even if it is one or the other, that one unit isn't really that good anyways. So a lot of mediocrity here in the NFL. On the flip side, you have a team like the Buccaneers, obviously, who coming into the season had Super Bowl thoughts. They've really waned over the last few weeks, but despite how bad the Rams are, the come from behind win could spark something for this team who go overseas, get to spend a couple extra days together as a team, and you hope, if you're a Buccaneers fan, you hope that this is something that's really going to galvanate the troops a bit and get them moving in the right direction. So let's start off our weekly picks. We're going to do this each and every Sunday, but we're going to do it with the Seahawks and the Buccaneers right off the bat, and that is Tom Brady, in my opinion, remaining perfect overseas, and I believe going to 4-0 as a quarterback starting in a place not the United States mainland. So I think it's going to be a close game, a well-fought game, and like I said, part of me is maybe it's just a little bit of hope that this is what we're going to see from the Buccaneers offense, what we saw those last couple drives. I think they pull it together, and I think their defense has been playing well enough, and they also get a little shot in the arm with of course, Antoine Winfield coming back. So I like the Buccaneers in this game, although I think it's going to be a pretty close, fairly high-scoring game.
I'm going to go with the Seahawks here, mostly just because I think that Shaq Barrett's injury and being lost for the season, I think this is a matchup where they're really going to feel that absence quite a bit. I think just a lack of setting an edge sometimes. And I think the way in which Kenneth Walker kind of wins as a slash rusher. And I just think Uchenna Nwasu coming off the edge, kind of a name that's broken out, being able to get a lot of pressures. I just think they match up so well with Tampa Bay's strength. So like you, I think it'll be a close game, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks.
Next, we have Detroit coming off a big win over the Green Bay Packers, heading to Chicago. I like the Bears in this. I mean, they seem to be finding something on offense. I'll be interested to see what Chase Claypool does in his, next week or another week in this offense, and maybe he can find a little something with Justin Fields, who's playing pretty well right now. So I like Chicago at home.
I like Chicago as well. It's kind of weird to see these teams kind of reverse. Bears were better defensively to start the year. Lions were better offensively, but Jared Goff and that unit, I can't trust them right now. And Justin Fields starting to put some good starts together. So I think the Bears get it done again.
All right, next we have New Orleans at Pittsburgh. I believe Pittsburgh is getting Mr. TJ Watt back. Nice bit of energy injected into this. I'm still going to pick New Orleans because at the end of the day, I feel like they play better on the road. I don't know. Two weird teams where, Pittsburgh plays. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking myself out of it, but I'm gonna stick with my gut. I'm gonna go with the Saints. I think Andy Dalton's gonna play a little bit better overall, and the Saints have their moments even without some of their top tier talent. So give me the Saints in this one.
I went with the Steelers. Yeah, kind of a coin flip game. Not a lot of confidence. It's, I guess, going to be interesting to see how Najee Harris is used after the bye. I know that's kind of been reported that we could see more of Jalen Warren, but I don't know. I think I'm going to just kind of rely on that old, Pittsburgh defense, low scoring game kind of formula, and them being at home, I think helps them a little bit. So I'll go with the Steelers.
Speaking of a low scoring game, and this is what we might get in this next one, Houston at the Giants. I like the Giants. I'm still wondering if they're really truly a contender, like with among some of the best teams in the league, or if they're merely just a pretty good team in this league. And not that we're going to find out against Houston, but I do think we're going to see them come back and off the bye have a pretty solid game. So give me the Giants at home.
Yeah, I got the Giants as well. Not a whole lot to add. I think it's just a tough matchup for the Texans. I think in the trenches, just so much power that they're going to have to deal with from New York, and Davis Mills been taking a lot of hits lately. So I think that continues this week.
Next, we have Denver at Tennessee. Tennessee nearly pulled off the upset over the Chiefs without Ryan Tannehill. We'll see what happens this week. I like the Titans in this one. Denver, they play pretty good defense. I think their offense is still anemic's not even the right word for it. It's worse than that. So I like Tennessee in this one. I think Derrick Henry has another big day.
Yeah, I do as well. I think as good as Denver's defense is, their front seven, I think, is kind of their weakest part, especially trading away Bradley Chubb at the deadline. So you're not gonna see the best part of Denver's defense attacked very much. So I think Titans will kind of take advantage of that and take care of business.
Speaking of Bradley Chubb, he and the Miami Dolphins get to host the Cleveland Browns with just a couple more weeks before Deshaun Watson comes back. Unfortunately for them, he is not back this week because I think Miami puts up a ton of points against the Browns. I mean, they very well could give up a ton of points if Jacoby Brissett is on target or hits a couple deep plays, but I think Miami runs away with this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. It's just a tough kind of way to live with the Browns. Relying on the running game. Brissett had an impressive game on Halloween, but it's just I think the Dolphins they're going to have a big chance to kind of get things rolling in the second half here, and it kind of starts with this physical Cleveland rushing attack. So I got the Dolphins.
Next, probably the toughest game to pick on the entire schedule, Minnesota at Buffalo. Now, the question is whether or not Josh Allen is going to play, and if he doesn't, I think, obviously it makes the game significantly easier for Minnesota. Regardless of if he plays or not, I'm still going to go Minnesota. I think Buffalo might be hitting a little bit of a speed bump. I don't think it's necessarily a long-term thing, but all really good teams go through it. But they're going to have to find themselves again because 6+ quarters of pretty subpar football from this team, especially offensively, has got them a little bit shaky. But regardless of if Josh Allen plays or not, I am going to take Minnesota, but I'm not terribly confident in that pick. I'm just going to roll the dice a bit.
I went with Minnesota as well, and I think they just have the skill players to really test Buffalo's strengths defensively. And really, I've been pretty impressed with the Vikings D. I did not expect much from them this year. So regardless of if Allen plays or not, I think this is actually a more worthy test than what a lot of people are expecting from the Vikings D. So they've been really good in close games this year. So kind of expecting that to continue. I'll go with Minnesota.
All right, next, this will be pretty easy. Jacksonville at Kansas City. We've talked about Kansas City. I think they have flaws just like everyone else. They're just unfortunately not too flawed to lose to Jacksonville. I think they've already had their eye-opening loss to the AFC South, and I would think it's not going to happen again this season. But you've already talked about their struggles with that division for whatever reason. I just don't think it's going to happen against Jacksonville. So give me the Chiefs at home.
Yeah, especially I think with Trevor Lawrence's struggles right now. I just think with the speed and physicality that Kansas City added this year, it's not a great mix for Lawrence, who's struggling to see the field right now. Really bad pocket awareness. So we'll see if he can build some momentum here in the second half of the season. But yeah, I think the Chiefs roll in this one.
It makes sense that Jim Irsay or Bill Polian, they took a gamble, so to speak, on Jeff Saturday, and they they make his debut as head coach in Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. I have no confidence in the Raiders, but I have even less confidence in the Colts, and it's not a Jeff Saturday thing. I just think you're not going to fix what their problems are overnight, and I think the Raiders, for better or worse, will be able to take advantage of that, at least more so than what they do to hurt themselves. So give me the Raiders at home.
I almost wanted to go with the Colts here, but I just think the struggles offensively. Even if Jonathan Taylor plays in this game, he's had a really tough year, and yeah, I just don't believe in Sam Ellinger. So even without Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, I think Derek Carr will make enough plays, and should be an entertaining game to watch. But I'll go with the Raiders.
Yep. And next we have that game. I was talking about the NFC West, Arizona at the Rams. Neither team, I think, is playing particularly well. The Rams, especially. So I think Arizona is going to do enough to win this game and continue this Rams spiral downward. So I'll take the Cardinals on the road.
Looks like Kyler Murray's a game time decision. I don't know if Matthew Stafford is going to be as likely to play, but if we get Colt McCoy and John Wolford, it might actually be more entertaining than what we could possibly get with the two starters. So I don't know what to expect in this game. I think this is one where Cardinals offense could be able to get some things rolling. I think with how much the Rams have struggled on the back end. So I'll go with the Cardinals here with kind of a shot in the dark.
All right, next we have Dallas at Green Bay, a game that many probably thought would have been a marquee matchup at the beginning of the season, but based on Green Bay's 5-game losing streak, they are not what we would consider a contender. I don't think they really have a shot again. I mean, I think their season's over. That loss last week was kind of, in my opinion, the nail on the coffin for them in 2022. So this game to me doesn't have any last grasp effort or last ditch effort to hold on to some sort of chance. I think they're out of it, and I think Dallas is just too good. So I like Dallas on the road here, and Mike McCarthy's return to Green Bay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. I'm going Dallas as well. I'd be interesting to see. I think Ezekiel Elliott's going to return, so maybe for fantasy owners, see how much Tony Pollard still gets some run. But yeah, I think the Cowboys dominate in this one.
All right. Last but not least, we have the Chargers at 49ers. Again, the 49ers are potentially or could be each and every week one of the most exciting teams to watch because of who they have on offense. Ironically, not because of their quarterback, but because of everyone else. I like them at home because everything about the Chargers this season has been incredibly disappointing. I mean, expectations for the coach were very low, but Herbert, the offense, the defense, it's all really kind of been very underwhelming. So I like San Francisco by a fairly nice margin, not a blowout, but a comfortable win.
I'm right there with you. It's just a tough matchup for the Chargers. Not a good run defense, and they lost defensive tackle Austin Johnson for the season last week. So it's just not a good recipe when your strengths are so differently aligned to what the Niners are. So yeah, San Francisco, I think they kind of dominate this one, and cover their touchdown spread pretty easily.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So, yeah, that's going to do it for us here today on Full Press NFL Sunday. Of course, keep an eye out for the Full Press NFL podcast, where I'm joined each and every week by multiple guests, including Braden here, where on Tuesdays we do our studs and duds. So maybe some of the people we've already talked about today will be on that list. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy the early Sunday morning game. And, of course, hopefully we'll see you here next week. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you then.